Today we're looking at this 1/3 scale statue of Superman as portrayed in the Snyder Cut of the Justice League. As hopefully you're aware, this was portrayed by the actor Henry Cavill. That's right, you say Cavill because it rhymes with travel. That's the proper way to pronounce it. Just like Mr. X rhymes with Mr. Sex. Hey, my name is Mr. X. Welcome to the Extreme Channel. We are giving away $1,000 statues to you guys. If you want to know how to win one, stay tuned for later in the video. Thank you so much for joining me today as we look at this statue. This is a long-awaited statue with a little bit of a history behind it. So before we do that, I want to let you guys know that I wasn't sure about this statue. I bought it out of necessity, if you will, although who needs a $1,000 statue? I bought it because I have a big collection of 1/3 scale DCU pieces. So that's right, characters from the DC universe, the cinematic versions of the DC films. Probably one of my favorites is this Wonder Woman right here. And again, the Wonder Woman movie is not my favorite, just the statue itself. That one's actually made by a competitor of Prime One Studio who made this. That's made by J&D. And they do these hyper-realistic statues that cost 2 to 3 times more than these Prime One Studio. But I have owned some of the Prime One Studio from this specific line in the past. So what I mean is they have very similar bases. My most recent one is actually the Dark Side right here, which, as you know, is also from that same movie. And in the past, I've owned Cyborg, this guy right here. Also the Aquaman, and originally a while back, the Batman. And then I replaced that with this tactical Batman right here, which I still own. So that, Darkseid, and Superman are the only ones I own from this specific line, and I plan to display them all together. And as I said, I needed a Superman. I loved the Snyder Cut of the Justice League. I thought the original version of the Justice League was meh, very disappointing to me. While Snyder Cut wasn't perfect, it was a huge upgrade, and then we got to see the black-suited Superman. We got to see him in power, the regeneration suit here. So I really wanted a Superman, a Henry Cavill, to join that line. That 1/3 scale line. So I've owned some other Henry Cavill statues in the past. First right here is this life-size bust, which I still own to this day. And then I actually owned the Prime One Studio half-scale version of this statue right here, which I bought right before the Snyder Cut was released because it had a really low edition size, and I thought it would be a good investment, but ended up selling it at a loss just due to the economic times we're in. Anyway, this was the only 1/3 scale black-suited Superman at the time, and I decided to pull the trigger, although I was hesitant. Recently, J&D, who made that Wonder Woman, released this version right here, which I'm not a fan of, to be honest. I think there's some good things and some bad things about it, but it got me wondering, is Henry Cavill's likeness really that hard to capture? I don't think it is, because that was my issue with J&D, that was my concerns with this one, because I think they got it right on that life-size bust. And then there's been some other life-size busts by Queen Studios, Infinity Studios, all these different companies that actually I think captured it pretty well. But anyway, I ordered him. He originally came in a different color, and we'll talk about that more in value. And he took a long time for them to remake, which I don't understand. Again, we'll talk more about that in value. For now, we're going to kick off the review with concept of this piece. There's some pros and cons for sure, and you're going to find that in every single category we look at today. But let's start with the concept. So first of all, they do this Justice League type base. What I mean by that is you have a number of things going on. At the bottom is a museum style, just like all the others. I like the fact that they're matching bases, even though I don't have the entire line. I always think that's good to do. But I have the tentacles that were taking over the city from Steppenwolf, as well as his individual logo. That's how they vary the bases up. So I like that they do that. They look all great setting together. However, I don't like how dark the color is. The reason I don't like it is because it's not a good contrast with the dark colors of the suit. So you have Henry Cavill doing a little bit of motion, but I would still consider this a museum pose. He's slightly stepping forward. You move up, he has his cape draped, his black cape. There's some things we're going to look at closely. He's very shiny, and there's a design reason behind that we're going to talk about. He's got a decent sized package, or he likes to show it off, and he has his hands and fists. You know, when he was busting down Steppenwolf, not only punching him, but with his heat vision, he was brawling. So this reminds me of that. You see his excellent physique, because Henry Cavill is a guy to be jealous of for sure. The Superman symbol for hope on his chest, and then a very serious expression Depending on what portrait you're looking at, there's a few different options. I think the likeness is pretty good. We'll talk more about that in paint and sculpt. But overall, it's kind of a boring concept, but it matches the rest of the line. So I think it's a 3 out of 5, which is good. You get what you pay for, nothing above and beyond that. Design. There's some things that I really question. They're not bad, I just really question them. So before we look at that, let's look at the really simple unboxing and assembly. One box, extremely heavy. We're going to talk more about that. It did have an art box, but I didn't look at it, and you're probably going to lose sleep wondering what it looked like. But it was one layer for all the main pieces right here. As you can see, the base, 2 portraits, and the body. Then a hidden compartment for the cape. So as I hinted to in the beginning, this is a variant. They actually made a different version of this. Now with that, this version had 2 different portraits. First is the Henry Cavill, and in my opinion, and again, we'll look at it closer later, this is better likeness than the Heat Vision portrait where he's very mad and angry, which really bums me out because I like the Heat Vision portrait better, but I think the likeness is better on this one. But otherwise, that's all you have. Let's measure him. It is about 16 inches wide, approximately 13 inches deep. He is a tall bitch. He is over 33, or between 32 and 33 inches. For exact dimensions, I got him from Comic Concepts. There's a link in the description below. Make sure to check them out. This is it. Nothing else to the design. Now here's the 2 weird things. Number 1, the weight on this is tremendous. You know, their website says like 41 pounds. I'm guessing 60, 70 pounds. The base is so heavy, but Superman himself is incredibly heavy. No doubt in my mind, this is 100% polystone. And you can tell because the body below him, I don't know if you can tell in the pictures, we'll do some close-up paint and sculpt, but his body is actually metallic. It's silver. It's not skin beneath him because this is a mesh uniform that actually has some movement to it. So it's technically not sculpted, it's mixed media. I don't know how I feel about that personally. Gives it this shine. You can't really tell on camera. And like I said, we're going to do some close-up video. But I'm not a fan of that. That's just a weird way to go. Why didn't you sculpt him? But overall, the design, just like the concept, I think it's a 3 out of 5. It's good. It's average. It's what you pay for. It's nothing above average. Paint and sculpt, we're going to dive in, and with the fact being that it's really just his anatomy, the base we've seen 100 times with the other statues, and his portrait, we're going to focus a lot on likeness. Check it out. So I wanted to start with this portrait, and before we look at the paint and sculpt, just the likeness. So it's really hard to see the perfect likeness of Henry Cavill in this, simply for the fact we didn't see him like this too often. And when we saw actually the heat vision coming out of his eyes, it was coming out of his eyes, so you couldn't really see the portrait. I do see some likeness there, but nothing compared to the other portrait we're going to look at. Like, this is so-so in my opinion. However, it's done really well. I think the skin tone is fantastic. What they actually did with his eyes, really nice. The redding around them. And then the stylized hair with the strands looks good too. They did a great job on the actual paint and sculpt. And then for comparison, here's the other one. Like I said, I can see Henry Cavill a lot more. Now keep in mind, one of the problems when you're doing likeness of real people is traditionally, not always, those people in the film, they're moving the entire time. Their mouth, their nose, their cheekbones, their eyes. So it's hard to capture. There are certain angles I think it's better at. Like, to me, that's really good for Henry Cavill right there. And same comments. I like how the spit curl is kind of back there, kind of an ode to it. But regarding the paint and the sculpt of it, it's done really well. The translucency, you can see kind of his veins behind him. I love the colors they used on his skin tones. Check out the veins in his hands. So really well done on the actual paint and sculpt of the few pieces we can see. I mean, most of it is costume. Looking at the base again, all that mixed gray and black color, but it's fine. It's like the other pieces. You see almost a skeleton of something down there, but these are those tentacles that were taking over the city at the bequest of Steppenwolf. You have the hope symbol on the front. And I believe there's one on the back as well. Or no, there's not. My mistake. So the base is fine. The cape has a glittery effect actually on the exterior right here. So really interesting. One of the things I didn't mention during paint and sculpt, or during design, is how his cape is actually pushed in there. It's just shoved under, which is kind of stupid in my opinion. It's kind of a design flaw. I should have mentioned that earlier. But look at the outfit. So you see the silver beneath it. Like I said, it's actually a movable fabric. You can tell it's just silver. I mean, that's kind of cool from the standpoint of, hey, the sun is shining on him and he's regenerating. That's what this suit was in the comics. It was after he was killed by, it was just like the movies, not just like the movies, but he was killed by Doomsday, and then they used the regeneration suit, which was standard, normal in Krypton, to bring him back. Then even his boots are fabric as well, which to me is a little bit of a miss. It looks good though, it's just weird. The hope symbol there. Great anatomy though, I think they nailed his anatomy. Probably the buffest Superman we've had. Yeah, so I'm kind of mixed on it. I think this portrait, the likeness is fantastic. The paint and sculpt is done really well on the portraits. Great anatomy. Still trying to figure out why they did that with the skin. And the base is the base, honestly. Well, there's not a lot to judge. We'll start with paint. The base, like I said, I don't like all the dark colors, but it wasn't really a issue with the application of the paint. It's more the original design, and it was smart they did it to match the other one, so I'm overlooking that. So really, we just have the skin to look at, as we talked about, and the hair, and I think it's done really well. I'm going to give this paint a 5 out of 5, actually. I'm impressed. Nice job. Sculpt. Obviously, the anatomy was fantastic. And the likeness, I think, is really, really good on the regular portrait. It's not picking up well in photos, though. Like, I would actually give the likeness a 5 out of 5. It's not perfect, but it's damn near there. This one looks a lot farther off, though. So I'm going to give the sculpt a 4 out of 5. It doesn't blow my skirt up or anything. I still have to admit it's really good. Value. Let's talk about value. So first of all, I got him in a lot of my Prime 1 Studio pieces from Comic Concepts. The reason I go through them is twofold. Threefold. There's a lot of reasons I go through Comic Concepts. Number one, they have a great selection. Prime 1 Studio, you can get almost all the pieces from there, plus some of the other companies I talked about, like J&D and Queen and Infinity Studio, not to mention Sideshow and a whole bunch more. Second reason, they are generally cheaper than Prime 1 Studio. Not only on the retail price, but the third reason, shipping. They're generally cheaper on the shipping. And lastly, they have fantastic customer service. Again, I'm not getting a kickback for saying that. There is a link in the description below. Use the code EXTREME. You actually get money off. I don't make money if you click on the link. It's Where to Buy Statues, Comic Concepts. Check them out. Thank you to Comic Concepts for this. The one disadvantage I would say about them, some of their shipments, it kind of varies. You have to wait longer to get. To me, that's worth it, because you're always going to get it eventually. Like, I'm not a believer in paying for express shipping and stuff like that. I mean, how fucking impatient are you that you're going to throw away money that you could give to charity just because you can't wait to get a statue? Just my opinion. Anyway, back to him. So what's interesting is they originally made him in this version right here. Like I said, this was a variant they made a long time ago. This was probably 4 to 5 years ago. And then shortly after that, when it was released on the Justice League, the Snyder Cut, they actually made this available. Now, what I don't understand from Prime 1 Studio, who made this, it took them, I think, 2 years to get this statue out, which just blows my mind for so many reasons. One, I'm pretty sure they used the original mold and sculpt for this. I think they tweaked the portrait a little bit. I think this portrait's better than the original. But like we talked about, it's fabric in a metal body, and the base was the same. So there's not a lot to it. Why did it take you 2 years? That just doesn't make sense to me. So kind of disappointing that it took so long. You would have thought it could go to production right away and be ready in 3 to 6 months. And I know that kind of contradicts what I just said about shipping. There's a big difference between waiting 1 week and 2 months to receive a statue and 6 months and 2 years. A lot of shit happens in 2 years where you might change the direction of your collection, life circumstances. Waiting 1 or 2 extra months isn't a big deal. So anyway, he was $10.99, $1,099, plus shipping, of course, and then the edition size was 500. They made 500 of these. Now the problem is, like I said, we have the original Cavill that they made in the traditional Superman suit. They have J&D making black and regular versions of these. They have Bus. Henry Cavill isn't Superman anymore. So a lot of negatives that actually hurt the value of this. Nothing to do with the actual statue itself, just pop culture and the competition. So because of that, the value also gets a 3 out of 5 in my opinion. I think I'd be lucky to make my money back in a good statue market or economy, which we frankly don't have right now. Does he have the X factor? Is he a 5 out of 5 statue? You know, I'm kind of torn on him. Like I said, I really want to display this portrait, but I don't think it's the way to go based off of the likeness. So that's kind of bumming me out. The pose is a little awkward too, but I can't think or suggest a better one. And it's so dark. Those are the negatives, despite the good paint and sculpt, and this is a good representation of Henry Cavill, in my opinion. But I think overall he's a 3 out of 5. He's, you know, average, mundane, nothing amazing. He's nothing bad. He's right in the middle. What do you guys think? Is the J&D better than him? If you haven't seen that, just let me know what you think of him in the comments below. I always ask for comments because it can actually win you a statue, and I love to hear your opinion. Except for you, Kyle. Fuck you. As we try to grow this channel, we like to reward you guys for watching and subscribing. So because of that, every 5,000 milestone when it comes to subscribers, we give away a couple $1,000s worth of statues. We've actually given away over 20 statues. To win one was easy. First, you gotta be subscribed to the channel. You'll get bell notifications when videos drop. Each video that drops, you want to make a comment on those videos. We pick a random video, we give away statues based on a comment. You can say whatever you want. The more videos you comment on, the higher your chances are to win. Hey, thank you so much to Comic Concepts. Please check them out. Please drop a like. It really helps the video. If you haven't done a comment, again, you could win a statue.